Am I the a-hole for kicking out my pregnant teenager's stepdaughter over my cat? Plus update. Original post. I'm at the vet waiting room with my cat, so I'm gonna rush this and edit the grammar later. So I, 35 female, have been with my 45 male fiancé for 3 years now. He has 2 kids, a daughter 22 who's a lovely girl, and another daughter 19 who I'll call Kim for the sake of the post. Kim has always had a bad attitude to everyone, especially me. Now, before anyone assumes, my fiancé has already divorced his ex 2 years before we even met, and his ex is a nice person who I get along with very well, so there's no hate from her end either. Kim is 3 months pregnant and living with us because we have more room for her and the baby. The baby daddy stays sometimes, but he has 2 jobs, along with studies, so it's mainly been me who's taking care of her. So the main issue. Today her boyfriend came over, so my fiancé suggested we let them have the house to themselves and go for a walk. About 2 hours later, I came home and noticed my cat missing, who Kim hated and wanted me to get rid of. I asked her where he was, and Kim said he ran out the door, which I knew was BS, because Whiskey is an elderly cat who wouldn't even go out on the porch if I didn't bring him. So I checked the ring camera, and as expected, Kim threw Whiskey out that ran him off. My fiancé tried saying Kim is pregnant, her hormones were all over the place, and pregnancy brain messes with women. That he was gonna bring up getting rid of Whiskey for the baby's sake anyway. I was in tears, till I looked over at Kim with that smug, satisfied look on her face. I freaking lost it. I got up in her face and screamed that she had 1 hour to find my cat, or all her stuff would be in the dumpster, and I was done being her slave. She said she wasn't looking for my stupid cat, and to back off as she was pregnant. My fiancé told me to calm down and that we'd look for the cat. I told him no, I would look for my cat. And when I got back, his daughter better be gone. And if he has issues with that, he could go too. Because I was sick of dealing with this little witch of a daughter, who everyone, including her own parents and boyfriend, avoids. I didn't wait for them to respond. I did hear her cry though. As you know, I found my cat. He was hiding in some bushes and it took 20 long minutes to find him. When I arrived home, they were both in the living room. My fiancé said he wanted to talk, but first, he said I owed Kim an apology. I told him to screw himself, and she better start packing. She's had her boyfriend's family home as far as I know, and my fiancé is not talking to me. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Pregnancy hormones do not cause you to be cruel to an elderly pet. That's just vicious entitlement and garden variety meanness. You don't owe her an apology. She should be begging for your forgiveness, and so should your fiancé. But pregnancy hormones are a good excuse coming from the accountability-lacking father of an entitled spoiled brat. How can he ask the daughter to take responsibility for her actions? It's her mere biology betraying her angelic nature. I hope OP do not forgive either of them though. They don't deserve it. Not the a-hole. Stepdaughter attacked your defenseless cat and got what she deserved. Curious if you owned a house? It's mine. Kick them all out. You deserve better. Not the a-hole. Make sure you check with a lawyer to make sure they don't have rights to stay there. And the nanosecond you are legally clear, change the locks. Abandoned house cats do not survive long, and regardless of the jokes, cats do get very attached to their owners and suffer emotionally when they are separated. Not the a-hole. As a cat owner, I salute you. I mean, yeah, you might lose the relationship over this, but from the sounds of it, if this doesn't do it, something else likely will. In all honesty, I am not someone who likes pets. I've had them in the past, I've cared for them, always making sure they were safe, fed, got proper care and such, but I lack the ability to bond with them. And I support her kicking out the fiancé over this crap. I'm 100% in favor of the cat staying, over the people in that house. I'm not into animals really, and I don't think in some cases someone should choose a pet over a significant other. Say partner is severely allergic, something like that. However, I totally support this. It's not even so much about the cat, but about all the things that kind of behavior shows. If she's willing to do all of that over or to a cat, and the fiancé was in on it, what other crappy and conniving ways will they act when it comes to other things? This entire situation says so much. And even if you're not an animal person, you shouldn't want any ill will to come to an animal. They were willing to hurt a cat, and also by proxy OP, and it was all plotted. OP should be very cognizant of their own safety when X comes first things, as well as for a period after. These people sound like they have no moral compass, and could be dangerous. Now for the update. So my now ex-fiancé's oldest daughter reached out to me to ask my side. I'll call her Kate. She's an animal lover like myself. Her father asked to stay with her for a few nights because he said I was having a breakdown over my cat. He basically made out that the cat escaped, and I went after poor Kim for not trying to catch him in her condition. Kate is a very smart girl, so she can see BS from a mile away. And obviously she knows her own sister, so she called Kim to ask her side. Kim was more honest. Basically, her and her dad planned it as some of you suggested. The plan was for her baby daddy to take the cat out a road dump, but he wouldn't do it because in Kim's words, he was a pussy. So they got in a fight about it, and Kim, thankfully being lazy, just kicked Whiskey out and ran him out of the yard. Kate told me the way Kim was talking about me and Whiskey, that even if she doesn't move back, she'd do something for revenge to Whiskey. So I've decided to listen to Kate, my friends, the vet, his assistant, and everyone here, and I called off the wedding, which is in a few weeks, and broke up with my ex-fiancé by text. I don't care if it's immature or cruel. I've told him I'll box up his stuff for him and leave it for him to collect in a few days. Don't worry about Whiskey. I told my ex to call me when he's coming over, so he'll be locked in a room safe. And I'm calling a 24-hour locksmith next. The begging and BS promises have already started, but my mind's made up. I'm done being his ATM slave for him and his spoiled witch of a daughter Kim. Whiskey is fine, by the way, just a little shaken, but is curled up in my lap, refusing to move. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my homeless sister-in-law and her husband out over a chair? I'm going to come off as a hostile witch because I literally hate my sister-in-law's husband with every bone in my body. Apologies in advance. So, my husband's sister-in-law 43, and her husband Scum became homeless like a month ago. They have a child, 10 Opal, and I wasn't about to let her live on the streets, so they were welcome into my home. Sister-in-law works full-time. Scum is a couch potato. I set very clear stipulations on them being here. Scum was to get off his butt and partake in house chores, since he refuses to be employed. Sister-in-law was to purchase their own food and cover their portion of living expenses. Sister-in-law has done her share, while Scum complains about having to do a woman's job. As in, ain't it a damn woman's job to load up these dishes in the wash? I told my husband to deal with Scum, because again, I can't stand this excuse of a man. He has spoken to Scum on several occasions. Scum will oblige to house chores as instructed for the duration of maybe 2 days, before he goes back to being a couch potato. Tip of the iceberg while Petty was over a chair. I was outside grilling, because apparently that's a woman's job as well. My husband and sister-in-law were both working. I wanted to sit down because I'm heavily pregnant and grabbed the nearest chair to me, which happened to be owned by Scum. Roughly 15 minutes later, I get a text from sister-in-law saying, "Can you please put Scum's chair up? He doesn't want anyone using it." I ignore the text and continue grilling and using Scum's chair, because it's all that's out there at that given time. Sister-in-law comes home maybe an hour later, sees Scum's chair still outside and says, "I texted you and asked you to put that up because Scum doesn't want anyone touching it." It asks why I ignore it, and I say, "It's a chair. Get over it." Scum comes in and says, "It's my chair, and I don't want anyone's fat in it." Bold, considering he's the only overweight one here. I told him to watch his tone, and he starts talking about how I'm gonna ruin his chair. He wouldn't let up, so I told him to get out. Sister-in-law then defends Scum, saying, "Anyone who has a problem with my husband has a problem with me." So I said, "Good, so you can leave too then." My husband is on my side, but I'm seen as a dirtbag and getting texts from out-of-the-state family members, saying that I'm wrong for kicking them out over a chair that wasn't mine to be using. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. This isn't about a chair. It's about an unemployed sexist a-hole being rude to his hosts. If they are truly homeless now, I would consider taking in the niece, but the two parents can buzz off. I would have given him a chance to atone. I would have given his chair back, then screamed at him anytime he put his fat ass on any other furniture, including any beds. Make that bed, idiot. Lol. Nothing was stopping the unemployed fatso from going outside to fold up his own chair. I guess he considers that to be women's work too. In Opie's place, I'd have asked him what he actually considers men's work. Because he doesn't want to go to work, he doesn't want to do any work in the house or garden. What, in his opinion, is it that he's supposed to do? And if the answer to that is nothing, then how does he justify his existence? And why should anybody else support him? I feel so bad for your sister-in-law. You can't have the best self-esteem to be with a parasite like this. Not the a-hole. Unfortunately, her self-esteem is completely squashed. By herself, she's a damn good woman. She's funny, intelligent, and the life of the party. The man, though? It goes without say that for the past 11 years, people have been begging her to leave him. Some people can't be helped. Have you talked to sister-in-law about how her daughter is being impacted by her father's treatment of her mother? Does she really want her daughter growing up to think that it is okay to be treated like a workhorse while her husband sits on his ass? You mentioned that sister-in-law's self-esteem has been squashed. She needs a come-to-Jesus talk, that not everything revolves around accepting the treatment handed out by scum. She needs to put her daughter first, being a good role model, and helping her daughter grow into a successful, independent woman, not the a-hole. Tell the out-of-the-state family members to take them in, especially if they're not satisfied with how you did it. If they want to help so much, they can take them in. Last story. Am I the a-hole for punching my sister's fiancé? So I realized that title doesn't sound appealing, but hear me out. I, 32 male, and my wife, 33 female, have an 8-year-old daughter who is phenomenal and I adore her. And she has always enjoyed spending time with my sister, 27 female. Let's call her Clara, fake name, and she's engaged to her fiancé, 27 male Howard, fake name. So my wife and I were planning a trip to Honduras to see her grandmother because she is sadly ill, and her wish was to see her granddaughter. And my wife wanted me to come for support. We wanted our daughter to come, but she hates planes and refuses to even step foot in an airport. So I asked my sister if she could come and watch her. She said yes, but Howard wasn't too happy about it. So I told them we'd be gone a week and I'd pay them when we returned. Unfortunately, my wife's grandmother wasn't doing any better and her health was getting worse. So the only thing keeping my wife happy was our daughter, who we called every day. The first 2 days she was happy and was saying how much fun she was having with Clara. But then on the 3rd day, she wasn't very talkative, but we just assumed she was just tired. On the 4th day, she didn't even answer a FaceTime call. So I called Clara to find out what was going on. She claimed that my daughter was simply exhausted from all of the fun they had been having. I didn't really buy it, but I decided to disregard it. Now, on the 5th day when I called my daughter, we heard yelling. So my wife called her friend, Sarah, to get our daughter and the police involved. We returned right away after explaining the situation to her family, who were very understanding. And as soon as we returned, we went to Sarah's house. Howard was yelling while playing Xbox, and it scared her, so she dropped a plate. But Howard got upset and told her to clean up and drag her away from the camera. After we landed, we headed straight to Sarah, to which we saw our daughter, and she ran towards us crying and just holding us both. After a while, she let go and explained everything. So around the 3rd day, Howard started yelling at her to clean or be quiet. And he wouldn't let her eat dinner because we spoiled her. And Clara was just letting it happen, telling her that she has to understand if she ever wanted a boyfriend. I was horrified, because who says that to an 8-year-old? When the cops arrived, they couldn't do much because everything appeared to be in order. But because my daughter wanted to go with Sarah, they allowed Sarah to take her. So I thanked Sarah and we drove home. When we arrived at our house, my daughter immediately went to her room while holding my wife's in my hands and said she wanted to sleep with all of us. I kissed her forehead and said I had to take care of some business, and she looked sad. But my wife held her and said, "Don't worry, Daddy will be right back." And that's why I love that woman. She always knows what I'm thinking. I drove to Clara's house and knocked on her door. She answered looking surprised, but before she could say anything, I forced my way inside and saw Howard drinking a beer. He looked at me and said, "The F you want?" I asked him why I treated my daughter that way, and he said that she needed to know how the real world works. When I called him an idiot for even saying that, he got up and walked towards me, thinking I'd be intimidated because he was taller. For context, I'm 5'8" and he's 6'2", but I've always been small my entire life and I never fight fair. So when he tried talking down on me, I hit him in his stomach so hard, he actually fell to his knees gasping for air. And after a little while, he started throwing up. Before I could do anything else, my sister stepped in between us and began yelling at me to get out. But before I left, I told her she was dead to me and they would never see my kid again. The next day, I got so many calls and texts from my family saying I could have handled the situation better. And Howard is in the hospital because he apparently can't breathe correctly. So now I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. My wife and her family say I wasn't at all wrong, but I keep thinking could have handled the situation better. So now I'm thinking I might be the a-hole. The guy had it coming. Your sister unfortunately is a tool, and Howard is gonna use her up and throw her out once he had enough of her. It is best to stay in no contact with her, because she won't have your daughter's safety in mind, especially with Howard running her life. Howard needed to learn how the real world works, not the a-hole. Ever notice that people who want to teach kids how the real world works are always justifying crappy behavior? Don't talk to anyone. They could record you. Guy could file a police report or sue you to cover medical bills. He advanced on you in an intimidating manner. You felt threatened. 2 against 1. Exercise your right to STFU. Mutually assured destruction. Howard takes it to the police, and OP explains that Howard was abusing his child. And they have the previous call and file that something was wrong, and they got the child out of the situation. Might not be enough for charges, but he'll learn how the world works when word gets out. And if they can bring charges, he'll really learn, because they don't like guys who hurt kids in prison. OP may still want to take his kid to get a medical checkup though. The creep mentioning boyfriend set off not only the bad warning bells, but also the it gets even worse warning bells. Oh, and lawyer up. Expect that this guy will or someone will on his behalf. Write down everything as best as you and everyone else can remember about this, no matter how inconsequential it may seem. Get screenshots and timestamps. Anything and everything. Don't talk to anyone outside of your lawyers. Volunteer nothing unless the lawyer recommends it. And of course, therapy for the kiddo.